Greetings and salutations to all who are joining us on this journey through the depths of the heart. If you're new here, we invite you to subscribe to our channel and show your appreciation for this story by liking the video. In a fleeting moment, a spark is all it takes to ignite the passion that drives us to weave even more stories for you. Your support makes all the difference. Now, let us embark on this tale together. I never imagined that I would find myself questioning the very limits of my heart. Yet there are times when life guides us down paths we could never have anticipated. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Emma. For the past 10 years, I have shared my life with my husband, Davidal. Together, we built a life that intertwined our hopes and dreams, making promises to stand by each other through whatever came our way. We crafted a world of our own, full of aspirations, shared goals, and the belief that we could face anything together. But somewhere along the way, things began to shift. I changed. Perhaps it was the natural course of life, or maybe it was a shared experience. After all, Davidal and I met in the halls of academia. He was different from anyone I had ever known, gentle, kind, responsible, and with an understated strength that made me feel safe in his presence. Our love story wasn't one of grand gestures or dramatic passions. Instead, it unfolded quietly and steadily. It was a love grounded in simplicity, like the foundation of a home built to last forever. We were young when we married, sure that our love and dedication would be enough to weather any storm life could throw our way. For a long time, it seemed like it would be. The early years of our marriage were filled with joy and affection. We traveled together, built a home together, and supported each other's ambitions. But as the years passed, the little things that once held us so close began to fade. Davidal worked tirelessly to secure our future. I understood why he did it. He wanted to provide for us, to ensure that we would never face hardship. But in doing so, he began to distance himself from me. Our conversations became practical. Have you paid the electricity bill yet? When? Does your meeting start tomorrow? We need to go grocery shopping. Our love was still there, but the warmth that once enveloped us had started to fade. I tried to reassure myself, convincing myself that this was just the natural rhythm of life. After all, in long-term relationships, the initial fervor may fade, but love and affection should endure. Yet, deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. It was then that I met Eric. He was a colleague at work, just another figure in the professional world I navigated every day. At first, he was nothing more than someone I collaborated with on projects, exchanged emails with, and occasionally shared a coffee break. But Eric was different. He had a wonderful sense of humor, a charm that was hard to ignore, and a remarkable ability to make others feel seen and heard. In contrast to Davidal, who was often overwhelmed by his duties, Eric was always present and fully engaged, attentive, and genuinely interested in others. At first, it was just innocent exchanges, nothing significant. But as the days went by, I noticed how Eric would ask about the books I was reading or the challenges I was facing. He seemed to sense when I was stressed and would offer a kind word of comfort. It didn't feel wrong, just like a small act of kindness that made me feel valued. I never realized how much I had longed for that kind of attention. One day, we were assigned to work together on a big project. It required late nights, brainstorming sessions, and hours spent side by side. At first, I kept a clear boundary in my mind. I was married, and my heart still belonged to Davidal. But the more I worked with Eric, the more I began to notice a truth I had been avoiding. The solitude I had felt in my marriage was growing more and more apparent. Eric brought laughter back into my life, laughter I hadn't felt in years. He sparked a curiosity in me that reminded me I was more than just a wife, more than just a person bound by schedules and responsibilities. One evening, after a particularly long day of work, Eric casually commented, "You're working too hard," a smile lighting up his face. It was such a simple gesture, but it struck me deeply. It was the first real connection I had felt in what seemed like an eternity. I tried to convince myself that it was nothing, just a friendly gesture, a moment of camaraderie. But that night, as I lay in bed next to Davidal, my thoughts were consumed by that simple exchange. It wasn't just the act itself, it was the meaning behind it. For the first time, I was forced to confront a void in my marriage, one I had been unwilling to acknowledge. As the weeks went by, my bond with Eric only deepened. I told myself it was nothing more than a friendship, that we had not crossed any boundaries. But emotionally, I found myself yearning for more. What started as a simple connection had become something I could no longer ignore, and so, I was faced with a question I never thought I would have to answer: how far do I let this connection go? How long could I ignore the longing inside me? In an emotional landscape that was decidedly inappropriate, I anticipated my work with a newfound enthusiasm. I found myself immersed in our dialogues, chuckling just a touch longer than necessary, revealing a bit more than I intended. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Davidel and I found ourselves seated at the dinner table, enveloped in a heavy silence. He was lost in the glow of his phone, hardly aware of my presence. It dawned on me just how effortless it had become to drift apart. How did we find ourselves as strangers? I longed to speak with him, to express my sense of being adrift, to convey that I craved more from him, yet I refrained. The following morning I found myself anticipating Eric's smile at the office. I am uncertain about the precise moment it evolved into something deeper. Perhaps it was the conversations that stretched into the early hours, or the way his gaze lingered on me as if I were someone extraordinary. Perhaps it was the instant I began to put more thought into my morning attire, yearning for his attention. Perhaps it was the manner in which he awakened a sense of vitality within me, a sensation I hadn't experienced in years. Yet there came a day when I found myself in an unexpected realm, grappling with the very foundations of my beliefs regarding love, marriage, and loyalty. What's truly terrifying uncertainty lingered within me, casting doubt on the desire to cease my current path. How I longed to claim that I saw the peril looming ahead and turned back before the point of no return. Yet the reality is that emotions do not operate in such a manner. One does not simply awaken one morning and choose to allow their heart to wander aimlessly. With each small step you take, one after the other, you find yourself in a place you never thought possible. Eric seamlessly integrated into my daily existence in a manner I had never foreseen. It lacked the flair of drama or the clarity of the obvious, at least in the beginning. It resided in the subtle nuances, the shared glances that spoke volumes across the conference room, the gentle timbre of his voice when he inquired about my day, and the way I caught myself glancing at my phone hoping for a message from him. I reassured myself that it posed no danger. In the end, I found myself in a position where I had done nothing amiss. Each night, I returned to Davidel, sharing the warmth of our bed, the ring on my finger a constant reminder of the promises we made. Yet deep within me sensed that I had already started to pull away from him. One evening, as Davidel and I lingered in the living room, I became aware of the profound silence that enveloped us. Sat engrossed in the news, captivated by the latest financial updates, while I lingered nearby with a book resting on my lap, feigning interest in the pages before me. Longed to speak with him, to grasp his hand, to express the depth of my longing. Yet each time I attempted to articulate my feelings, the words lodged themselves in my throat. I pondered whether he sensed the widening chasm that separated us, if he longed for me as deeply as I longed for him. Yet he remained silent. I managed to persuade myself that my actions were not truly misguided. Yet the reality was that I had crafted an entirely different realm for myself, a place where Eric was the individual I eagerly anticipated encountering each day, a space where I felt acknowledged, valued, and truly recognized. And then one fateful evening, everything transformed. In the dimly lit office, we toiled late into the night, just the two of us immersed in our project. The air conditioning whispered gently, while beyond the glass the city lights danced in a flickering embrace. We found ourselves caught in a fit of laughter, sharing one of those whimsical inside jokes that had blossomed between us. In that fleeting instant, all else faded from my mind. In that moment, he turned his gaze toward Metroly, seeing me and the atmosphere around us transformed. Emma, he murmured gently, may I pose a question to you for a moment? I paused, certain. Lido, you find joy in your life? The question struck me with an intensity one hadn't anticipated. I parted my lips to respond, yet the words eluded me. The reality was intricate. My heart was captivated by Davidel. I had crafted a life alongside him. Yet what of happiness? Uncertainty lingered as I pondered the last time I had genuinely experienced happiness. Eric refrained from pressing me for a response, merely observed me, his face a mask of inscrutability. In that fleeting instant I sensed I was perched on the brink of something perilous. I ought to leave, I murmured, rising abruptly. He allowed me to continue. He made no move to grasp my hand or draw me closer. Yet as I turned to leave, a sensation gripped my chest, tightening with an undeniable weight. That night, as I reclined in bed beside Davidel, I sensed the heavy burden of it all bearing down on me. A decision loomed before my it. How does one navigate the delicate balance between the life meticulously crafted and the undeniable emotions that persistently beckon? I longed to express that I recognized my misstep immediately, that I paused to own the direction I was taking and halted my journey before it spiraled beyond redemption. Yet emotions defy logic, and at times the most challenging path is the one that aligns with what is right. Rather than retreating, I allowed myself to descend a bit deeper. I began discovering justifications For lingering at the office, for reaching out to Eric beyond the confines of work hours. The messages began as innocent exchange, at least initially, a light-hearted quip regarding a meeting, a suggestion for an engaging read, and a warm wish for a pleasant day ahead. Yet it transcended mere words. It was the emotion that accompanied them, the thrill of his name illuminating my screen, the flutter in my chest as I entered the office, fully aware that he would be present. One evening Davidel posted a question that sent my heart racing to a halt. "You've been distracted lately," remarked, his tone a blend of softness and resolve. All well. I stood still, caught in a moment of sheer disbelief. This was the moment when I could have revealed the truth to him. It wasn't about Eric, it was about the emotions swirling within me, longing I felt, and the desire for something deeper in our marriage. Yet I mustered a smile and replied, "I am simply overwhelmed with work," nodded, embracing my response without a hint of doubt. In that fleeting instant, a profound truth dawned upon me, shattering my heart into 1,000 pieces. Davidel placed his unwavering trust in me, and I was shattering that bond. That night, I lay awake, my gaze fixed on the ceiling, a heavy weight of guilt churning within me. Was I engaged, and was I truly prepared to jeopardize everything I had constructed with Davidel for something that could potentially be an illusion? Eric reminded me of feelings I hadn't felt in a long time, yet it was David who had steadfastly remained by my side through the years, the man who cradled me in my sorrow, who rejoiced in my triumphs, who vowed to cherish me even through the toughest times. Clarity washed over me, revealing the path I must take. The following morning I entered the office with a resolution firmly in place. I intended to create some space between Eric and myself. I would dedicate myself to my marriage, the task of restoring what had once been cherished. Yet, as I caught sight of him by the coffee machine, that effortless smile of his made my determination falter. The reality, the tangled and heart-wrenching reality, was that I found myself uncertain about whether I truly wanted to release him from my grasp, and that filled me with a deeper fear than anything else could. The gravity of my decisions bore down on me, an oppressive load I could scarcely endure. For weeks, for months, I found myself waltzing precariously along a boundary I understood I ought to avoid. I reassured myself that I remained in command, that my actions had not crossed any significant lines. Yet beneath the surface I was acutely aware of the truth lurking in the shadows. The emotional chasm I had forged with Davidel was palpable. The bond one had forged with Eric was unmistakably. This pivotal moment in my marriage, I found myself confronted with the choice of the person I wished to become. That morning, I compelled myself to confront what I had long evaded. I gazed at my husband, truly gazed at him, sat at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, his gaze drifting over the news on his phone as he did each morning. The recognition of it caused a constriction in my chest. This was the man with whom I had woven the fabric of my life, the man who had stood by my side through every trial and triumph. And yet I found myself gradually drifting away from him. With a deep inhalation, I gathered my thoughts. "That you, Davidel?" Looked up, taken aback. Indeed, there was a moment of uncertainty. The thoughts I wished to express loomed large, burdened with weight. Yet I realized that I could no longer maintain the facadito I longed for. Our connection, I spoke in a gentle whisper. A subtle shift flickered across his expression, set his phone aside, and regarded me intently for a prolonged moment. "Could you clarify what you mean?" I took a deep breath. "It seems as though we have been slowly drifting apart, as if our conversations no longer flow as they once did." "Hope we don't drift apart and become unfamiliar to each other." Let out a breath, his fingers gliding over the nape of his neck. "It seems I have been so absorbed in my work that I failed to notice the growing distance between us." His gaze sought out my own. "Do you find yourself feeling discontented?" The sincerity in his voice nearly shattered. "May love you," I murmured, me voice scarcely rising above a whisper. "Yet there's a sense that something has eluded me rather than discussing it with you." I found myself seeking answers elsewhere, his complexion drained of color. "What do you mean by that?" The sharp prick of tears welled up in my eyes. "I find myself deeply engaged with someone at my workplace. While things never became overly inappropriate, I found myself drawn too near to another soul." The ensuing silence was suffocating. David's gaze pierced through me, revealing the depths of anguish that lingered in his eyes. The ache I inflicted was one I had never wished upon him, and yet I had indeed. "What prompts you to share this with me at this moment?" He finally inquired, his voice strained. Me heart raced as I uttered the words. "Desperate to hold on to you." In my moment of clarity, I understood that what I believed I lacked was never truly about Eris. It revolved around us. "I have no desire to discard what we've built together," averted his gaze, his jaw tight with tension. Words escaped me. "I don't anticipate you having an answer immediately," I confessed, "yet I want you to understand that my choice is you, and I am determined to mend this." Davidel remained silent for an extended period, rose to his feet, his fingers combing through his hair. "I need time," he finally said, "to process this, to figure out what it means for us." I acquiesced, fully aware of the necessity to honor that sentiment. "I comprehend." On that particular day at the office, I arrived at a conclusion. I had to bring my relationship with Eric to a close, not merely the exchanges or the unspoken looks, but the profound emotional grip he maintained over me's eye caught sight of him in the hallway. His smile was as familiar as ever, yet I chose not to return it. "May we engage in a conversation?" I inquired. "Certainly," replied his smile dimming as he detected the gravity in my tone. We discovered a serene nook within the office, and I inhaled deeply. "Eric, I must take a step back." His brows knitted together. "Emma, what's happening?" I found myself deceiving my own heart, convincing it that what we share is merely a friendship. I confessed, yet the reality is that I found myself emotionally distant from my husband, caught in unexpected feelings, and I can no longer continue down this path. Appeared wounded. "It was never my intention to create any issues within your marriage." "I understand," I replied gently. "This does not pertain to you. This narrative revolves around my journey, the decisions that have shaped my path. I must mend my marriage, and that requires establishing some distance between us." Eric nodded slowly, yet the disappointment in his eyes was unmistakable. "I comprehend." With that, I turned and walked away. The ensuing days proved to be challenging. Davidel maintained a certain distance, and I found it hard to fault him for rebuilding trust is not an endeavor that can be accomplished in a single night. Yet there was one truth I held with unwavering certainty. I intended to stand my ground for us. I began to re-engage in our marriage. Once more I sparked dialogues, orchestrated evenings out, and above all I paid attention. I absorbed Davidel's words as he recounted his day, shared his worries, and unveiled his dreams. Gradually, piece by piece, I witnessed the barriers that separated us start to crumble. One evening, as we lounged on the couch, Davidel extended his hand toward mine. Though it was a modest act, its significance was profound. Confessed that the pain lingers, yet he remains unwilling to abandon what they share. Emotions surged, causing tears to gather in my eyes. "I am determined to take every necessary step to rectify the situation." Grasped my hand tightly. "Let's take the first step toward rebuilding." In that instant, clarity washed over me. Love is not defined by the absence of mistakes. It revolves around the decision to stand by one another even in the face of adversity, and I found myself prepared to select Davidel day after day for all the years to come.